And I'm one of the co-directors of the Queer Newark Oral History Project, which is how I met the fabulous Miss Pucci Revlon, who is kind enough to come visit us tonight for a sort of Q&A and discussion. And so while Miss Pucci gets situated, I'm just going to make a couple of announcements because I figure anybody who's in this room now might be interested in a couple of other events that are coming up. And let us know about voice projection. I'm kind of shouting to try to project my voice, but if it's too loud, let me know. I can also talk at a more moderate pace. This room has odd acoustics because of its size. But basically, we've got 3 events I just want to announce briefly. This is part 1 of 2 of LGBT History Month events that we're doing with the Queer Newark Oral History Project. Well, at Rutgers Newark. Indeed, indeed. And tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. is going to be a speaker, Sue Ferentinos, talking about LGBTQ public history as a kind of public and academic discipline. And she wrote a really important book on LGBTQ history and monuments and historical preservation and public history. So she will be at the Dana Room, which is the 4th floor of the library over there, Dana Library. So again, that's at 5:30 tomorrow night for anybody who's interested. And then 2 events really quick that I'll announce coming up at the Newark LGBTQ Community Center. So these aren't Rutgers events, but they're very nearby. For anybody who's never been, right down off Halsey and Central, our one and only LGBTQ Community Center in Newark. We've got 2 events coming up that are both fundraisers for the center. So on Monday we have a murder mystery dinner from 7 to 9 p.m. In which you can eat dinner and try to find out who the killer is. Tickets are $20. That's to raise money for the center. I would actually be performing in it, but I teach that evening, so I will not be there acting, but plenty of wonderful people will. So that's this coming Monday, the 30th, and there's some flyers out there. I'll leave a couple up here too. And then the one other event is Drag Queen Bingo, coming up on Friday, November 3rd from 7 to 9 p.m. over at the Community Center. Another fundraiser in which our dear friend and community member Aaron Frazier will revive his ballroom persona, Miss Una, for the first time in nearly 2 decades for a drag queen bingo fundraiser. So also sure to be a lot of fun and less academic than the stuff we do at Rutgers, in a good way. So those are the things I was going to announce. And without further ado, I guess we can get started on tonight's event, talking with Ms. Pucci. I'll sit down, we can pass the mic. Normally I would give a sort of biographical introduction, but since that's what we're going to be talking about is your biography, I will simply say Ms. Pucci Revlon is a transgender pioneer of Newark who has been out and proud for many decades, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and is going to tell us about her experiences growing up in Newark, about some of the forgotten history of downtown kind of LGBTQ life, and whatever else we want to talk about. So join me in a round of applause for Ms. Pucci Revlon. So thank you for being here. And just to set the stage, Pucci and I have done, how many hours? Like 6 hours worth, maybe 5 hours of oral history interviewing, which is all up on the website of the Queer Newark Oral History. That's how we met one another. I think this photo is from that eventful day. And so, we've spoken in great...
That's my living room.
Well, it's your old living room. So, we've spoken in great detail, and we're kind of going to do a little bit of a greatest hits, I think, of some of the basics of our interview. Whatever else you want to talk about, and then we'll open it up to the crowd, and whatever, you want to ask about, we'll field. That sounds good to you. So to get the ball rolling, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your family and your sort of family background as a Newarker.
Well, I grew up near Irvington. I came from a very moderate family. Both parents worked, and that's all I knew. And the thing, I can't go that way. That's going to drive me crazy. Okay. When I was younger, I didn't have a lot of problems. Because I had 2 parents that worked, so anything we wanted, we got. And I lived in a very open community where nobody bothered me because they knew who I was growing up and things like that. And I had a very eclectic as far as racial background, because where I grew up, I had a lot of Spanish people, Italian people, Polish people, Chinese people, African people, Jamaican people, and there was a few Haitians, and we were all in the same area. And I was like one of 3 little drag queens running the neighborhood back in the day, and they knew who we were. We never had no problem growing up in that type of neighborhood. Because I used to put on a nightgown, and the next day, me and my girlfriends, we used to walk up and down the street at night and put our little facial masks on and up and down the street. And it was a very, even the police didn't bother us. But when I talked to some of the people that were older than me, I found that the police in Newark and well around this country wasn't very good to gay people. And I think this had to be somewhere around the time of after Stonewall and whatnot, because they were talking about hopping fences in people's backyards and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I wasn't doing that because I was a lady. That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, and like I was telling Whit one time before, I knew like Bobby White and Paris Smith and stuff like that, because I used to work for Bobby White in the Dollhouse on the weekends. And then there's like several other clubs he had, but I can't recall most of their names except for one called the Continental in Majestic. That was which was up on West Market, and the Continental I think is the one that was on Elizabeth. And those type of clubs were very few, but we drew a crowd. Not only did we draw a crowd of the gay kids, we had the straight kids coming in trying not to go home. We had to actually close the club down sometime at night and just start leading people to the door, because they kept the music going and entertainment, because Bobby White was the premier entertainer here back in the late 70s to around the early 90s. And Bobby White was the entertainer for Newark, because Bobby White played all the clubs, and I mean the straight bars, all up and down Broad Street. Like there was a the Santana Bank. Next door there used to be a club called Midas Gold. Bobby White was a headliner there for years.
A straight club?
Yes, a straight bar. He did all the bars. He didn't just do clubs. He did all the little local bars and stuff like that. They called him Mr. Entertainment. And Bobby White put on a good show. And matter of fact, he did a lot of events for Mayor Ken Gibson back in those days, as well as the city council. And I know he was running between here and Trenton doing shows all over the state. And back then, and I was thinking about this tonight at home, we, as transgender, well, let's say as transgender people, we didn't hide, we just tried to get by. Because if you got spooked, you'd have to learn how to do the Sarah Dash. Boom! Because as long as you looked like the person you were, or dressed like, nobody bothered you. But if you walked out there, oh, hello, hello, then maybe take, oh, hey, you better start running. Because they will chase you. Because we had problems with the Wild Bunch gang back in that point. And a couple of my relatives was in that little gang too. I threatened them afterwards. After I got a little older and a little weight behind me, I can fight them back. Because they were actually attacking people.
Can you explain who the Wild Bunch was?
It was a group of young men in the Clinton Hill section that were never very fond of gay people. They were not fond of whether you was a woman or a man. If a woman came outside and she had on too much makeup, she could get paid for a beatdown. These boys did not care. Because they attacked a couple of girls I've known because of the eyeshadows and stuff like that, and sent a couple of them to the hospital. Matter of fact, they sent a couple of the gay guys to the hospital too, because they have gotten beaten so bad in that area. Because when I was at Essex County College, they threatened us. But there was a bunch of us that wasn't having them coming into the college. Matter of fact, we also had the back of the college because the security people stayed on with us waiting for them to come that day. Because these boys were determined to attack anyone that was different from them, just from walking the streets, or just for being who you are. Now today the children are a little bit more bolder, and they can probably get away with it. But back then, it was not something you normally did on the streets of Newark. Because Newark was very forgiving if you're known in your area, but when you stepped outside that area is when you had problems. Now you can just go all over the place, hopefully, and don't have these problems. I haven't heard any of that in lately.
Well, there was the recent incident at Eastside High School, attack on a young trans woman,
that was.
Was a reminder of this history carrying through the present, right?
Huh?
I went to that protest.
Yeah, and there was a big rally.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, that was one incident. I've seen lots of it. I've seen when you had to actually, if you stepped outside of your neighborhood and went into a cross neighborhood, like we had several groups of people that lived in certain distant blocks of each other. And we went from like Ellis Avenue in Springfield, 21st, 20th, up to about 16th Street, over about 5 blocks. In that area, we were safe in that area.
Yeah.
But we used to take Roz. Roz was our protector. Her name was Jerry Lofton. Matter of fact, she's a graduate of Rutgers University.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Roz graduated here in a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1972. In drag.
From Rutgers Newark.
From Rutgers Newark.
Really?
Yes. You can probably find it in the archives here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lawford.
Okay, so one of the details from the Essex County College kind of battle that you mentioned that sticks out to me from the oral history we did is I believe you carried a hatchet to...
I darn sure did. I got a hatchet in my book bag.
Tell us a little about that, about how you fought back against the attackers.
Oh, no. See, I don't like to be hit. Now, I'm not going to be hit and then just sit there and be hit and don't think. But when you talk about a gang of people coming at you, I went right up to Sears. They had a Sears in Irvington on Springfield Avenue, right after Grove Street, and got me a nice, big, silver-looking hatchet with a black handle. Used to stick it in my book bag every time I went out the house to go to school. I took that bag to Essex County College with me. Because back then dealing with the Wild Bunch, I can't think of no other gangs I can compare this group to. Because
Crips. Bloods.
yeah, maybe the Crips or the Bloods.
That'd
Yeah, not thinking about because they were very vicious like that.
Okay.
They wasn't dealing with the economy side of it, but the dangerous side of it, like jumping them into the gangs. That's the way they were just jumping the children back then, just for the fun of it. They were jumping these kids just for being themselves. But the way you get jumped into the gang and you get beat down that way, that's the way they were doing the kids back then. And it was very hard to see some of your friends beat up to a pulp, laid up in the bed. And we had, I saw 2 people, I think that was in intensive care back in that days.
Yeah, and it always came from the gang and not from the police?
No, the police didn't bother nobody back then. Because I think after Stonewall, a lot of that reinnovated all over the country. Because we didn't have that problem back then. Now, the people before me, like there was a girl named Sahara and Rod, they used to talk about when they first came out the difficulty they had with the police. By the time I got along, and I'm 60, we didn't have that problem. Did we, Miss Sherry?
What you say? Don't do it.
Well, so let me ask you this. I mean, you know, you mentioned Stonewall a few times. I mean, so you're a young woman in Newark in 1969. When Stonewall happens in New York City in the summer of 1969, does that immediately mean anything to you, or is it only after the fact that becomes important?
Yeah. No, that didn't. 1969, I was a child at home. Trust me, I think I was in 7th grade.
Yeah. So did you even hear about it then, or only later?
No, I heard it over the news.
Oh, okay.
Over the news, yeah. We had TV in the house, so we saw it over the TV. Over the news, yeah.
Okay. So I've got a sort of historical question about language for you, because, you know, we use the word transgender now, right? But I mean, this is a word that only begins really in the 1990s. And so
we were femme queens.
Okay, so that's, I guess you answered my question before I finished it. So okay, so the language you would use would be.
Yeah, we were considered femme queens. Then there was the butch queens. Then there was the butch girls and the femme girls. We didn't put too much on title. We just called everybody by their name.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that only happens in the ballroom scene.
Okay, which is a topic I want to come to in a minute, actually, because I know the ballroom scene, we've got some photos from it that we'll flip through as we talk. But before we get there, you know, you mentioned Bobby White and the Dollhouse. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what downtown Newark, what kind of LGBTQ downtown Newark looked like in, say, the mid to late 70s or moving into the 80s. You know, where did people hang out and what was it like?
They hung out in the clubs. And then you had you also had the working girl.
The stroll.
Huh?
The stroll.
The stroll.
By they built the Prudential Center. All that was still girls. The girls still.
Honey. All of Broad Street was the stroll.
Okay, so
You could have worked down. They used to have a hotel down here. They used to call the Stinking Lincoln.
Okay.
Yeah, the girls would be out there. And this phone company right out here on from Broad Street right here, before they put that little train thing, that was the spot. I didn't do that because I used to have a job. Because every time I go downtown, I would have a problem.
You were down there a lot. You were just down there helping the people?
No, I went to transportation.
I just want the clarification. I'm sorry.
No, I was down there. No, I couldn't. Listen. I did a little bit of the strolling thing out there, but I didn't do it a lot.
Okay,
but I was a working person.
Okay.
I've been working ever since I was 14. Let's lay this out here. I had a job with Speedy. Not only did I work Speedy, I worked in Aspira. I worked in a bilingual speaking company because yo hablo español más mejor de tu mujer. Let's get this out here. And I got that job at 16, and they thought I was from Panama, being a black American person.
wow, yeah, that was actually my next question.
Then,
So
I became a home health aide at the age of 17. And I worked that job 2 years, dressed as a boy. Then I turned it out because the third job I got, I went in full women's clothing. And I've been doing that until I retired. So don't say I've been working the stroll all my life.
I didn't
Mr.
say work. I said fishing. I didn't say work. That's not work to you.
So for folks who aren't familiar with the language, I mean, what are we
A
talking
stroll
about? Yeah.
means walking the beat, walking the strip. You know, picking up dates on the street for the little coins that they're going to give you. That wasn't enough money to pay my rent. Are you kidding me?
All right. So okay, let me go back though to the downtown scene and the Dollhouse, which if our crowd stops heckling us momentarily.
Barney knows, he's been in there.
Oh, I know. But you had, when we talked about the Dollhouse earlier, you know, tell us where the Dollhouse was, what it was like, and I remember you talked about some plays that were put on that were pretty memorable. So tell us about that.
Yeah. Bobby, like I said, Bobby White was an entertainer. Was Bobby White and Paris Smith. Oh, that's a story in its own. Paris Smith. Paris Smith is the oldest of 11 children, I think, or 10. 7 of them boys. No, 7 of them boys, 3 of them girls. Paris is the oldest. Paris left home because he didn't want to influence the other kids, because Paris was gay. Paris came back, the mother said, "You're too late." 5 out of 7 boys were gay. And 1 girl. The woman had 9 kids and 6 of them was gay. There was Paris, Delilah, Dee, Samantha, and Sean, and Denise. All turned gay. The mother couldn't figure it out. She blamed the father. And this was a black and white couple, a black man and a white and Italian woman. And all these kids turned out gay like that. She was just too through. Okay. Now getting back to them, they had a vision about doing plays and stuff like that. Like, okay, Bobby was like an entertainer. Now the one play I can remember, we did the Wiz on roller skates inside the club. And Bobby White played the Dinah Ross part,
Of course.
being the star of the club. I played the mother. I'm trying to, y'all know Angie. What's Angie's last name?
Angie, that's Angie. I mean,
Yeah.
Deacon, what's Angie's last name? You know Angie. That works at the Lesbian Center.
Angie was in it. I think Angie was there too.
Yeah, she was there.
Yeah, I think Angie played in that play too.
It ain't David. Well, Angie.
Yeah, Angie was in that play too, but she was also part of that club.
So did anybody ever videotape this? Because this would be amazing to see.
If you did, they are long gone.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know where you'll find any stuff like that. Yeah, Angie was in that we did the Wiz on roller skates. We did a play called Is My Whole Family Turning Gay? We had the Gay Awards.
Wait, tell us about Is My Whole Family Turning Gay? that needs a little explanation.
Okay, I played the mother in that play again. Here's another play. I played the mother in that play. I had a little skinny son. Angie might have been my daughter in that play. And I had a husband. No, Angie was the next door neighbor. And I had a husband. And the husband was sleeping with the next door neighbor. My son was sleeping with the neighbor's son. And my daughter was running the streets. And by the end of it, I was drinking wine, sitting in the chair and giving off the title. But it went on and on. It was an ad-lib play that lasted about 2 hours too long. Yeah, we had that whole club that night. It kept going on and on. We kept turning back in and closing the curtains and opening back up. I was ironing the cape. I don't know why. Then we took it and put it on one of the players and did a James Brown song. And it was just fun. It was just wholesome fun. That's what Bobby White and Paris wanted. They just wanted wholesome fun.
Yeah, and this is the late 1970s we're talking about?
Late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, and so any other memorable clubs or bars in downtown Newark that you think are worth mentioning just to remember that aren't here any longer?
There was Branford Place, the
The
music room,
music room, Majestics,
SRO.
SRO.
SRO, and what was that other club that used to be over there, be across the street that they keep moving?
Burks, and who else? Sensation?
The Sensations and the cafe, Burke's Cafe.
Wasn't there a gay bar, Prudential Murphy, something?
Murphy's, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that goes without saying, yeah.
oh yeah, that yeah.
Murphy's was very big.
Yeah, first I went to that club, they wouldn't serve me no booze.
Wow.
And I'm about 27 years old.
Yeah.
Murphy's.
You didn't have an ID or what?
Yeah, I had an ID.
Huh.
They wouldn't serve me no booze because I was in drag.
Yeah, they didn't let
They didn't let
trannies in.
trannies in.
Trannies
Uh-huh.
weren't allowed in Murphy.
Yeah, they wouldn't serve me no booze. And I was upset.
They would not trans friends.
They would not serve me no booze. But do you know what happened? I gave the money to a little 14-year-old boy that was out in that club. They let him in. He went and brought my booze. And I cussed everybody out. Oh, yeah.
Did that change their policy or not?
I remember that.
Well, it changed it for me, it did. Because I went off. Because the next time I went in there, I was served.
Oh, good, good. And when would that have been? Is that
Unless they was doing the shows.
in the 70s or 80s or?
Yeah, around the 80s.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they wouldn't serve me in that place.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And so it's around that time, I think, that you get involved with the ballroom scene, right?
No, the ballroom scene for me began in like 79. They were here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the first ball I went to belonged to was a girl named Sahara. This was also, I think, I can't remember Sahara's name, but I think she graduated from Rutgers too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a lot of the kids went here.
Oh, that's great.
Tweety got a nursing degree. She started her nursing degree here. She got it from Essex County. She did the associate, but she started here. Arlene has associate's, a bachelor's degree from here. I think in education, called Arlene and Roz. Arlene and Roz also went here. Roz is the one I talked about before, Jerry Lofton. Got an arts degree here. I think school, there's Chrissy, I think Chrissy went here too.
From the Board of Ed?
Yeah. I think she's a graduate from Rutgers. And there was, I think it's Chris Pato. A lot of the kids, a lot of the trans girls went to
Yeah.
school here. They enjoyed it here.
That's good to know.
Rutgers was good to them back in those days.
No, that's great. And so for students of today who might not know what the ballroom scene is, can you tell us what the ballroom scene is and how you got involved in it and what it meant to you?
Okay. The ballroom scene shows competition between each other without, well, back in the day, when we first started, it showed competitive journey between each other without fighting. You know, you try to outdo your friend or in outfits, and back then as he was realness, walking down the street looking like a real woman, or a butch girl walking down the street looking like a man. They had like business attire for the butch queens, which are the regular boys. Then they had business attire for the femme queens. Then they had face for the femme queens and face for the the butch queens. They had masculine face for the women, for the butch women. So that what do y'all like to be called these days? So I don't make no mistakes. Huh?
Us?
The gay girls, but the butch ones. What
Yeah,
do they?
Sherry, you a butch. What
That's Charles.
That's Charles.
Because I don't want to make no mistakes and call somebody something.
What
I
did you
want-
used to call him back in the day? We used to call him like the butch. You're a butch.
Dyke, old dyke, old
Oh no, we didn't say that.
No,
You wouldn't do that.
That time, they were calling him butch.
No, the straight people did that. We didn't do that to each other. We We wouldn't call nobody no bulldog.
Way back.
Yeah, you did. You didn't, but everybody around you
It
did.
was tight.
No,
Yeah.
that's wrong. You can't do that.
Everybody didn't have a.
Baby, if you would have,
Freak out.
what was this? If you would have called Miss Shirley Walker a bulldogger, you would have had to fight. And that girl could fight like Mike Tyson. Oh yeah, she'd knock you out. You couldn't call her no bulldog.
Shirley Walker.
Shirley Walker from 17th Street.
That's my cousin.
Now,
This
that's your cousin. Now you would have called her a bulldog?
That was her first lover.
Not at all.
Honey, you couldn't call her no bulldogger. All Big Gloria.
But again, it wasn't politically correct either. Because again, we call things, we may not do it now, but then you was a butch, you was a bulldogger.
Yes.
Now we may not have said it to Shirley's face, but when
That's
Shirley
right.
turned that corner, Shirley, where's Shirley? Oh, you mean the bulldogger?
Honey, gosh.
Yeah, that's
And unfortunately, but we didn't have those. It wasn't considered really derogatory. It was, and you accepted it that it was.
It's in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, so as an historian here, I don't know what to say because I'm getting
Let's
conflicted.
get back. Let's get back. Where were we at?
To some people, it wasn't the greatest.
Okay, yeah, okay. So you had the butch. I'm gonna go to butch girls. You had the butch girls, walking from masculine face and passing off as realness. Then you had the big flamboyant thing, which was grand pride. That's when the feather boas came out and the big headpieces and the long gowns or the bikinis, or they came out in a mermaid costume. Trying to win the grand prize of it all.
So what did the ballroom scene mean to you? I mean, what was its attraction and like what did you get out of it? Is it?
Competition.
Oh, okay. So
It was just competition.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I add that the ball scene was also a place for the girls and anybody that was gender nonconforming at that time. They didn't call it gender nonconforming or queer people or trans or whatever. It was a family. Because like when I was
Oh
growing up.
no, not back then.
Not back then.
No, that didn't start in the houses came in
78, 75.
in the no, they were in New York, but in Newark, they wasn't here until till about maybe 80. But in New York, they had already had houses over there.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, they had those houses, the House of LaBeija, the House of Dupree, the House of Christian, the House of Dior, House of Princess. And there's about maybe 7 or 8 houses. And they all competed in those balls over there. They didn't care too much when the Jersey girls came over here. Because most of the femme queens, like I said, we walked around trying to be women. We were trying not to get spooked. And we had a couple over here that went over there that said it a little bit. Like there was matter of fact, she was a nurse. She wasn't really into the ballroom scene, but she was half black and half Puerto Rican. Her name was Tweety. Very pretty. Back in the